We're returning now to our breaking news. The Supreme Court allowing Texas to begin enforcing its controversial immigration law.
We're joined now by Joan Biskupic. Joan, what do you make of this decision? Just yesterday, it was put on hold indefinitely. Now they're letting Texas move forward with enforcement of this law.
Yeah, Boris, when they put it on hold indefinitely last night, they were only doing it because they weren't ready to issue this order. It wasn't anything final. They just essentially bought themselves a few more hours of time. This is very, very big. It's saying that this law that allows Texas to arrest and detain people who cross the border and are suspected of entering the country illegally, for Texas to use its own law enforcement powers against them, that really flies in the face of decades and decades of federal immigration law. And the Biden administration had challenged this Texas law. It's commonly known as SB 4. It was signed by Governor Abbott back in December, really taking a hard law enforcement effort against people crossing the border. The administration had said, you can't do this. Federal immigration is our concern. And the merits of this dispute are playing out in lower courts. But the question was, should this law be allowed to take effect? A lower district court judge had said no, put the court on the law on hold while the legal proceedings play out. But today, the Supreme Court ensured that that law can go forward. Now, just so you know, only 3 justices dissented here, and they were the liberal justices, Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and Elena Kagan. And I'll just read briefly from their dissent, because the majority itself did not explain itself. It just, had an order that said that Texas can enforce this. 2 justices on the right did concur in that, and I'll get to that in a second, but I just want to explain what the dissenters wrote. They said, today the court invites further chaos and crisis in immigration enforcement. Texas passed a law that directly regulates the entry and removal of non-citizens and explicitly instructs its state courts to disregard ongoing federal immigration proceedings. That law upends federal state balance of power that has existed for over a century. That's what Justices Sotomayor and Jackson wrote. And then Justice Kagan wrote separately, the subject of immigration generally and the entry and removal of non-citizens particularly are matters long thought the special province of the federal government. And that's kind of the crux of the argument, even though this is playing out in such human terms at the border. This was kind of a very legal separation from the federal government from the states issue that came up to the court. And the justices, the majority at least, felt that this is something that right now Texas has the upper hand. Now, I will caution that this victory on the part of Texas, and it's a really significant victory today when you consider all that's happening at the border. It's significant, but it might not be, long-lived, only because this is going to go through arguments on the merits. The only other thing I want to mention, just because I want to give the majority its due, the justices, and you need at least 5 votes, so it could have been a 5-4 decision. More likely it's probably 6-3, but we don't know because they didn't sign their order. But it needed at least 5 votes to at least allow the Texas law to take effect. Justices Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh wrote a concurring opinion to the majority decision, basically just saying that they didn't feel that it was right to interfere what the lower appellate court, the Fifth Circuit, had said at this point about and allow the law to take effect. The Fifth Circuit will be hearing the merits of this very large dispute on April 3rd. Boris, Brianna.
Yeah, so they'll hear it next month. And in the interim, Texas is allowed to proceed with this law that Governor Abbott signed into law in December. What do you think this means, though, Joan? I mean, are you reading more into this than just, okay, you can proceed, Texas, as you want to until it's decided? Are you reading a lot into that rather than them sort of staying this law?
Even though they the concurring justices who were with the majority, just 2 of them, Justices Sotomayor and Kavanaugh, said, we're not deciding the merits here, but it certainly, Brianna, gives Texas the upper hand here. And remember, they are allowed to do something that a state has never done before. You know, arrest and detain people on their own state powers who they think are here illegally, as I said, normally something of the federal government. So, you know, in the very end, you know, months from now, many months from now, this law could be struck down as unconstitutional, as the Biden administration argues. But right now, it's allowed to be enforced with such great consequences there at the border.
A significant ruling that will have immediate impacts on the situation at the
That's
southern
right.
border. Joan Biskupic, please stand by.